Coming up, we are back with another recap episode, and we are here live from Effortless Entertainment Studios. We're going to be talking about some one-shot, the only movie we had, Thor, and the lead-up to the Avengers. This is the Sacred Rewatch. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Rewatch, brought to you by Effortless Expeditions, a Disney-centered travel agency, here to help you plan your next Disney vacation. Contact us today for a free, no-obligation quote. Wherever the destination is, they make it truly effortless. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this content, or give a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you are listening to. And also be sure to check out our new podcast called the E-Ticket Talk. We're talking about all things Disney parks, Disney Cruise Line, even Adventures by Disney in the future. My name is Ethan Bronson. I am your host for today's show. I am joined by a multitude of people. We're here live, so starting off, we're going to start with Andres.
What's up?
We've got Wyatt.
What's going on, guys?
And Carson is back for another episode.
What's going on, everyone?
We're also joined live across the country, Brendan Duran.
What? I need a horse.
Austin.
What's going on?
And lastly, Brody.
Another.
Awesome. All right. Well, so I am very excited to talk about this. It's a little bit different in format since we only got one movie we watched. The format, or how we assigned it, was we had one shot, which is a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. We had Thor, and then we had the consultant. So I think first we'll just talk about a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer.
We had 2 one-shots, sir.
Yeah, one's after.
He said the consultant.
Goofball.
He said both
The
of them.
consultant. Oh, that's my bad.
Sir.
Okay, so
Someone
we're gonna
mute
be
this guy. Someone kick him out.
we're gonna be talking first about a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. So we obviously got the sneak peek at the end of Iron Man 2.
Yes.
Iron Man 2, where you see the hammer, you see Coulson come out of the car, and I actually think it was an exact shot that they pulled or they used in
Thor.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of see what happened. I originally thought it was going to be what happened to the hammer. Like, did the hammer, you're going to be following the POV of the hammer, which I thought was a stupid episode. But
I
then,
actually think that'd be interesting as hell.
That
well,
was awesome.
A trip of the hammer flying through the Bifrost.
It'd be like the water bottle and bullet train, like when you're just watching it go through
yeah.
different people. That'd be
yeah,
sick.
no, that's a good shot. But for the one-shot perspective, we've only seen one other one-shot to this point. It was Agent Carter, and that was about 15 minutes. And after looking and doing some research, that's kind of abnormal. Most of the one-shots like we've seen were only like 3 minutes in length. So there wasn't much to digest, which I think is good that we're not scoring it. But I'm going to just start with the funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. I did not think it was very good. I thought it was stupid. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
I feel like it's a complete waste of anything. I mean, it doesn't really do a good job at capturing the Agent Coulson vibe. So it's not like it's this cool look into like Agent Coulson's cool secret agentness. It tries to, which I think we just get so much more of it in Thor and in Iron Man 2, especially in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a whole show about mainly him. He's the main character. It was cool, I guess, but really it is just it's filler. I don't really know what do these come out on. They were bonus features on DVDs, right?
Yeah,
So I
I'm not
assume
sure
this was
what
a bonus-
DVD it came on.
I assume probably Thor or Iron Man 2. So I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking about it in terms of like it comes right before Thor comes out, like seeing that one shot about Phil, you would think that like he plays like a somewhat like big part because that whole thing's about him, right?
Mhm.
And then he just doesn't. He comes for like a couple shots in the movie, so I can see that it's a little misleading.
Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think
I mean, I don't think it's not really meant to add too much, and it doesn't really add too much. It's all right. It's fine. I think the consultant, which we'll get on, I think is a little better, but
I agree. I think the consultant was a much better.
Yeah, we'll get to that after we finish talking about this and Thor.
For
I think
sure.
it's a good progression into the rest of the MCU. Brody, what were your thoughts?
I just like that it kept the stakes low. It didn't like try to over-explain. Like that's kind of what I got with the Carter stuff with that one shot. Is it was like you didn't really get a full explanation on what was at the end. It just didn't make sense when you were watching it. You know what I mean? Where you couldn't really follow what was going on. Like it was cool combat and stuff, but I think with this they just kept it like a gas station robbery. So it was just It's just simple. Doesn't add much, but it doesn't try to do something that you can't over-explain in this like short time.
Yeah. What do you think, Carson? Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
it was okay, like you guys were all saying, but it doesn't affect the movie at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it just does what it needs to do, I guess.
It was really going to affect my opinion on Coulson, what mini donuts he decided to choose. Because if he went with powdered, then that would imply some crazy things. So good thing he got both.
What would that imply, Austin?
Powdered donuts.
Because the chocolate ones are way better, so I couldn't look at them the same.
I'm more of a crumb donut guy myself, but
Weird, dude.
all right. So what we've done, I mean, we haven't really set a precedent. We've only watched one shot up to this point. Since there's no grading, we're simply just gonna go around thumbs up or thumbs down. We'll go on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Can we go middle or down?
No middle.
Oh, okay.
You got to choose.
Down.
Double
No middle
thumbs down.
ground. No middle
We
ground.
only got one guy choosing thumbs up. What are you doing, Pat?
No middle.
I'm deciding.
No middle ground. There
All
it
right,
is.
so we got no thumbs up for the one shot. I mean, it is cool to see stuff that's not super high stakes because I feel like throughout the MCU we're gonna see we may get burnt out sometimes with the stakes, like the world's gonna end again,
Especially where we're at nowadays.
Yeah. So I think it's good to have stuff like this, and I'm interested to see how some of the other one shots, because these one shots, I mean, this is a very specific period in time where it's not going to continue through the whole MCU. We've only got like 3 more, I think. There's not a ton. I think by Civil War we're over with them.
Why do they stop with coming on?
I think it was just because of DVDs stopped really being a thing.
Yeah.
Brendan, do you have any thoughts to that?
I think you're right. These were mostly made just to be add-ons to DVDs and extras. But what about the Thor Ragnarok one when he
Team
lives in
Daryl?
Australia?
That's just hella funny.
What?
Which one?
I don't know what that is.
What are you guys
He
talking
lives
about?
in Australia, and there's that guy named Daryl.
Oh,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Is that in our schedule?
Yes, it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is
Well, there's
canon.
2 parts for that one.
Yes, there were 2, and then the Grand Master moves in with Daryl.
Oh, that one is
This is the most
That one.
knowledgeable he's ever been on the pod, right there.
hella funny.
All right, so
Awesome.
so now we've talked about a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer. We've all given our thoughts. Let's move on to Thor. So for you, the viewers and listeners out there, we've been trying to find a better format to convey our opinions to you guys and make us interesting to listen to, because you don't want to just hear us, spewing off the same facts over and over again. So we're still going to do the grand point reveal because I think it does provoke interest and conversation. But we're just going to kind of talk about the movie. We'll start with the beginning part, move to the middle, and go to the end. If somebody has a specific category that they want to speak on, you're more than happy to express your scoring to it, but we're not going to go each person by person, category by category. We're just trying to have an interesting conversation here. So get your scores ready. On a count of 3, I will let you guys reveal your scores. All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
A 16, a 20,
Who gave it a 20?
Brody.
Oh.
Whoa.
Can I see ours?
Wait, who's freaking out at the 16? Is that Carson who has a
Austin.
15?
Yeah.
No, I
got
put 11. The 16 to me was kind of crazy, but the 20 just blew that out of the water.
We can talk about it.
So
We
it's
got-
Austin
we
Robinson,
gotta talk
11
about
and a
it.
half.
Hey, it's a solid movie, man.
So, let's start with the person that gave it the highest score. Brody, we'll start with you. Give us your thoughts on the beginning of the movie, and if anybody wants to chime in, go for it.
Okay, so going into this, I just remember Thor was the one that I thought was slow. So I thought out of Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the big 3, I remember Thor kind of being slow with on Earth stuff. So when it started, and it was them on Earth and driving the thing, I was like, I don't know if I'm really gonna get hooked into this. So and it has the Dutch angles, this whole movie has the Dutch shots, so it's all tilted in the beginning to be oh, there's something magical going on. But I don't know, I just really like the opening. I like the twisters kind of chasing the storm thing. And I don't know, I got chills when it was about a switch, it's the very end of the beginning opening, and they just go where's he from? And I was like, oh, this like just opened up the MCU to like an entire new scale when they said that. So I thought the intro was a good hook, where it was like just enough.
Yeah, I mean, when this came out, obviously, this is the first off-Earth movie we've gotten, right? We've seen Captain Marvel at this point, but we're talking 8-year difference of Captain Marvel came out in 2019. This came out in 2011. So we've obviously seen off-Earth stuff. But to this point, that was the first thing. So it was very groundbreaking. And I think for what it is, it did a fantastic job. I think a lot of the CGI holds up really well. But I want to point out, Brody, you talked about the twister following. Jane almost killed them all. And she tried to
Oh,
justify it.
guaranteed.
But
But
she almost killed all of them.
I love the line when Darcy's like, "Oh, I'm not dying for 6 college credits or whatever she said." I don't know how many she said, but it's funny. That was a good line,
She's a sleeper character. She's pretty funny.
right? Or when he gets up and he's like talking about the hammer. I don't know if it was in this one because they continue the scene later.
They
He's
go,
like,
yeah,
"Dude,
we
you're
know
hammered.
you're
We can
hammered."
tell." Yeah. Darcy's funny, dude.
I think at the beginning of the movie too, right when it jumps to Asgard, the movie does a great job at establishing its characters' emotions and the relationship between the two of them and how that's pretty much like the base for your story very early on. Like Thor, within the first 2 minutes of seeing Thor, you're instantly asking, how is this guy worthy of holding a hammer? He seems to be the most egotistical, cocky,
Self-righteous.
all-powerful guy I've ever seen in my life. What makes him so worthy? And also very early on, you already can see Loki's kind of jealousy of Thor, the way his father's always viewed him from day one as the true heir to the throne. And when I ranked the characters on my thing, I gave the characters a 3.5. I gave it the highest rating out of everything else in the movie. And I feel like this movie does really do a great job from the very beginning. It establishes Thor's kind of ego and why he thinks he's this all-powerful god, because he kind of is. You know, he's been the prince of Asgard his whole life, and you see that when he goes to Jotunheim to fight the frost giants. He's cocky and smug, and he's this close to walking away, and one little just comment by the frost giant, he says, I believe, he says, run on home, princess. And Loki just says, I can't believe he goes, oh, well, like he knows there's no point in stopping him, and Thor just loses it and crashes out
he
on
just
the
goes,
frost
"Damn."
giant.
That's all he does. He just turns and says that.
That whole relationship between Thor and Loki is played out in every single Thor movie. It's one of the biggest themes. It's this brotherly bond between the two of them, where you kind of see Loki does a lot wrong, and Thor always loves him because he's his brother. And that's seen throughout the entire movie, and I think it's done great at establishing that very early on.
Well, so going on with like Thor's ego, was he ever worthy before this, or did Odin just give him his powers? Like, how did that all work out? Because it seems like he wasn't worthy at all before this.
I'm under the impression that he wasn't worthy because he was just the god of thunder. And at that moment, when he, spoke that spell into the hammer, that was when worthiness matters. And I think I was talking about to Wyatt earlier about this idea of worthiness. This is going to keep popping up over and over and over again in the MCU. And we'll obviously talk about it on a case-by-case basis. But I think we are going to dedicate a whole episode just to worthiness. Maybe we could talk about it several parts down the line. I don't want to give any spoilers as to why, but we'll talk about it down the line about why worthiness matters. But yeah, I think that's my thought. Brendan or Brody, do you have any thoughts, or even Carson?
I have a thought.
I gave.
Sorry.
Go for it, pal.
What was your thought, Andres?
Well, so to your point, Austin, what's the thing that stops people from picking up the hammer? Like, even from the very beginning, is it not worthiness? Right?
It's worthiness, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then it'd have to be in effect from the get-go.
But is that shown in the beginning?
But like when they first show it, like the actual worthiness, like he's already spoken the spell. Like we've never seen anyone try to pick up the hammer before that.
But
We've never seen anyone do that.
Does the hammer even have the power
I don't know.
until after? Because he gives it the power of Thor. He says whoever holds it has the power of Thor, not the power of the hammer. So I thought like all the power and stuff was just from Thor until after he cast the spell on the hammer.
I don't know. I've never really thought of it the way Ethan did, that the worthiness wasn't required until after he was kicked out of Asgard. I've always been under the impression to hold Mjolnir, you must be worthy no matter who you are. It's how it's always been forever. So I was under the impression that Thor was worthy beforehand, I guess, and his attitude maybe.
But I think there's no specific scene before he casts that enchantment on the hammer, showing that it is a worthiness thing rather than a brute strength
Well,
thing.
what about the beast that they fight running on the bridge? He just like holds it down, or like it just crushes the
That
skull.
is Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
It's
A
okay.
little bit of spoiler.
It's okay. It's okay.
I mixed up the names.
I don't know. I never thought about that with the hammer, actually.
Ethan, I like your theory because don't we learn in Ragnarok that Hela was the original wielder of Mjolnir, and like, there's absolutely no shot she was worthy.
I actually,
Yeah, that's true.
I disagree with the no worthy part. I know that we're going to get on a tangent about worthiness now. Ethan and I were talking about worthiness, and I think characters like Thanos are worthy of wielding the hammer. I think it's this idea of this. Thanos has this clandestine journey. He truly believes that he was sent to do this mission. He is the most worthy being in the world to him. I think he'd be able to wield the hammer. I 100% see Hela being able to wield the hammer.
Okay, then doesn't it come down to the relativity of like whose definition of worthy is it? Odin's definition of worthy?
The hammers.
Because he would the hammers.
It has to be the hammers.
If you put in an
No, but
elevator,
someone's programming the hammer.
I don't know.
I think it sets up an interesting debate for the future. I feel like
yeah.
we definitely have a much longer conversation. I mean, Hela is a really good point because that history is taking really place before this movie. We just haven't heard about it to this point. But there's other users out there that we're going to find out about. I just want to save that conversation for another day.
It's a little
Yeah.
plausible.
Yeah, and Ethan, could I jump into something before we get farther into the movie?
Yeah.
One thing I really like, and I actually kind of miss for Thor, is I really miss the Shakespearean talk and like dialogue they had. It was so
Absolutely.
refreshing for it to come back.
I agree.
In the comics, they always write in, anytime an Asgardian speaks, it has a different font. It kind of has that old Norse font, and they all talk weird. But like, it makes sense. Like, if you live in another planet, you're not going to talk like you're from California or New York. You're going to talk with this weird Shakespearean accent that's just like so far removed. And I dig it. I was like, I bring this back a little bit. I like them talking in riddles and stuff like, oh, silver tongue turned to lead, like stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Why do they
Yeah,
even
bring it
speak
back.
English? Like, shouldn't they like? I mean, I know for the movie.
Well, I think technically-
like
In MCU lore, they gave us English.
from Asgard.
Like technically, the Asgardians
Right,
from
right.
first before Midgard.
Oh,
And it's nice. It's kind of refreshing to go back and hear Thor talk like that. I'm like,
I
oh, I
think I
kind of miss
agree.
him.
And I do like the separation of the comedy too. There's a very big difference between Thor and the jokes he's intentionally making to his friends,
Mhm.
and the jokes where he doesn't know he's being funny, like the pet store later on and stuff like that. And I think like as you get later on, it's more he's getting more on the nose with him being funny. But I do like this where there's a difference between the two.
The
And, like,
fish out of
his
water
character.
humor is really good.
It's
It
so
works
good in
really
this
well in
movie.
this movie.
It's amazing.
This is more of also an overarching thought I had about the direction or the director of the movie. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I was really getting irritated at the end. The angled zoom in and zoom out shots. It was
Dutch angle.
always at a 45-degree angle.
The
It was
Dutch
zoom in.
angle,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Oh, I was really bothered by it at
There's,
the end.
I know we're not supposed to jump around, but there's that one scene at the end where Thor's gonna go back, and they literally do Dutch angle, Dutch angle, Dutch angle, like back to back.
and it keeps when it's flipping. That's when it's the worst. is
yeah.
when it's not consistent in between frames. I think it was overused a little bit. Like, I think in the beginning it's good because it lets you know that, like, something, it's just to put you, like, off put in the beginning to know that something magical or something's happening. But I think in some cases it was definitely overused.
Yeah. And I think also talking about other overarching themes in this movie, I feel like that angle usage maybe is a little bit of a time period thing. You know, this is the mid 2000s or even early 2010s at this point.
Yeah.
Another key takeaway I had, this has nothing to do with the story. Low set jeans on guys are not the move.
No, not the move. I know what you're talking about.
It just adds to Thor's overall Rizz throughout the whole movie.
It is.
Thor is just.
Would you like to touch on the Rizz?
Thor is unintentionally spitting game this whole movie,
Dude.
and whether it's just Chris Hemsworth, every line he says to every character he's flirting with, and they're all into it. They're all over it.
He doesn't even have to say anything. He was unconscious, and Natalie Portman's like staring at his soul.
100%.
One aspect of
Like,
this movie I really liked that it comes to kind of like after Thor's already touched down on Earth and he's already kind of been somewhat acclimated around these people and they're kind of learning about him. It's when Shield shows up, and up until then, I know it's still a small moment, but up until then, Shield were still seeing very, very small bits and pieces. And what I think is really lost in the current MCU, and I won't allude to really why, that like in the early MCU, Phil Coulson is Shield. Like Nick Fury is still very much that man behind the curtain vibe, and Phil Coulson is your on the field work guy. And it's just Clark Gregg's the actor. He just does such a good job with the role as having that kind of like certain charm to him. But he comes off very straightforward, but still so charming the way he interacts with all these people. And I think it's very well done in this movie, the way he kind of swoops in and steals all their stuff and kind of leaves. And then especially at the end when you see kind of shielding, they kind of bring in Natalie Portman and all that more to Shield. It really brings in the whole Shield vibe a lot in this movie.
And he's also, I think they do a great job. I can't let him say this. They do a great job with him in Captain Marvel after watching this.
Yeah.
Because I've realized now after watching back to back, like Captain Marvel and then him in Iron Man 2 and then in this one, he always looks the other way when he knows that it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like when they were running his ID and they're like, oh, he's a doctor. And then the screen shows up like false ID. And he's like, tell me more about him being a doctor. And then just like lets him go. Or like in Captain Marvel when he finds them on the stair and he's just like, oh, they're not down here. Like that, like now that I've seen him do it in a couple different movies, I'm like, oh, that's him. Like he's like the moral compass guy and is like willing to buck bureaucracy for that. And that's kind of cool.
And you've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., correct, Brendan?
Yeah.
That whole theme of kind of, he really does, his morals outweigh S.H.I.E.L.D. policy, no matter what it is. That's really, again, seen all throughout that show, too.
And I think that's what gets Nick Fury so bummed out when he gets.
Whatever may happen, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of full circle that he has this moment that you've noticed, Bren, in this movie, and Loki kind of plays a big part. I don't want to allude to anything crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of a.
We're getting dangerous waters. We'll end the Coulson debate till the Avengers episode.
And I think that's why I want to have a little bit of a conversation of what we're anticipating going into Avengers. We got introduced to the Hawk.
Again, another S.H.I.E.L.D. scene.
Oh, yeah.
That S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff where he's
Yeah.
fighting in the rain, getting the hammer.
That scene I remember every single time.
100%.
I don't know why. I just
The only iconic moment to me in the whole movie.
Yeah. I think
Really?
that's the most iconic
100%.
moment in the movie.
Mhm.
Is him in the middle trying to lift it. And then it has like
Moment
the
to really-
closure on the scene
Yeah.
of when Loki walks by and he tries to lift it. That's like the perfect closure to that scene.
Yeah.
Because you get the big moment and then after you get the little hint of like just a great finish off to that whole research station kind of thing.
Do they ever even say Hawkeye's name during that entire scene? I don't think they do.
They say
call him
Barton.
Barton.
No, this is his name. But
I
this
think
is Hawkeye.
I actually think the Hawk reference I'm talking about is in Avengers. I think that line is used.
Yeah. No, they say, where's the Hawk? He's up in his nest.
His nest.
Yeah. Oh, that's a cool line. That's cool.
So is he officially a part of the Avengers, like the initiative then? In this?
No.
I mean, why
He's still just a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Mm.
I think he's the first Avenger. Him and Natasha are like already Avengers.
Yeah,
No, but I don't think they included Natasha or him in the Avengers Initiative like recruitment.
yeah.
Just like threw him in there, like you're good enough.
Because it was, I didn't, like, Black Widow going to get Hulk was the same as Nick Fury going to get Cap. Like, they were just S.H.I.E.L.D. agents going to get the actual Avengers. She was never supposed to be a part of that, I don't think.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm going to try to keep us on track for Thor. It's really hard to, not talk about the Avengers just because we're on the precipice of watching this movie. And we only have
Can't wait.
So
one movie this week. I'm going to give a couple other thoughts that I had We talked about iconic moments. I gave it a 1 out of 5. I thought it was very poor in iconic moments, but I think the iconic moment of them all is Thor finishing his cup of coffee and throwing it on the ground, yelling another.
That is that's a very good one.
Talk about
was
a
fun.
classic, iconic moment that's used repeatedly throughout the MCU, and I feel like anybody can recite that line in public.
In public, not in private.
I feel like this movie also does a great job at setting up Loki.
Mhm.
Like I feel like I kind of
Yeah.
rewatching it. I hadn't seen this movie in a very long time. Rewatching it, Loki is huge in this movie. You see, right after kind of like he goes and like tells Thor like, "Hey, Dad's dead. Mom's kicked you out." And then he goes to pick up that hammer. He goes right back to Asgard and really starts putting his whole plan in motion that we've seen from the very start. And you really see that like you really from early on he's already viewed as this morally in between bad guy. Like you already kind of side with him. It's obvious from the start Odin was never going to love him the way he loved Thor because he is a frost giant. Like no matter what, it was never going to be this. He was never going to be his favorite child. And it's just I think Odin's plan is stupid. I told this to you when we were watching it. If I'm mistaken, his plan was to kidnap the leader's child to then years later be like, "Hey, now he's our king. Let's be friends. Let's be friends."
Hey, for the Game of Thrones listeners out there, does it remind you of a reek, a little Theon Greyjoy situation? Brent?
Yeah, and Theon.
I have no idea what you guys just said.
They don't ever want to bring back Theon. Like when he shows back up, and he's Dad, I'm home. He's like, I don't care.
It's just a similar situation where they capture like the enemy and like raise them in their own kingdom. He doesn't try to remake them, but
No, that was a good connection, Pap.
But I think this is the best. I think this might be my favorite version of like villain Loki that we see, just because it accidentally progresses. Like he
I think
starts
it's
by just
better.
being like ruining the ceremony, and
Brody,
then
I do
that
agree.
moment where he's like
Brody-
talking with Odin, it's great.
I do agree with you. It feels like at the beginning of the movie, Loki is very closed up, and as the movie progresses, he opens up, and you start to see his personality even more. And by the end of the movie, Loki's personality is, weaving through the MCU, and you finally see that character arc begin of Loki.
I disagree on the fact that I think he's closed off in the beginning. I don't think he's closed off so much as we're learning about him. I think he's tricking us. I think from the very beginning of that movie, he has a plan. Like,
I
you
don't
see-
think so.
No, but
He does, but it's not
like
this huge thing.
You see at the very beginning, he sits down and tells Thor, we should go over there. We should go over
He's
there.
receiving him, but it's not the
He's from
whole
the- And
thing.
you find out at the end that he let them in the first place. He's acting like he's kind of scared of living in Thor's shadow, but I think Loki is the god of trickery. He's not like I think from the very, very start, it's all a facade. It's all this scheme he has to overtake the throne. And I think it works very well because I think as viewers, you believe at the beginning, oh, I feel like he really is just like the little brother no one loves. And then you find out, oh, I mean, it was his idea to go there. Oh, he did let the Frost Giants in the first place. You kind of see as the movie goes on, you kind of see that he was kind of tricking everyone from the very start.
But just imagine if he knew he was a Bifrost giant from the start. Like he would.
I think that's the pivotal
10
moment.
times worse.
He is so. I've never seen this movie before or any of the Thor movies. He's really good at gaslighting. Like I haven't seen I've seen parts of it in other movies. He's crazy with it. He's so good.
Just wait.
His acting.
It multiplies by 10.
He is my favorite character, and it's gonna get like 10,000.
I can't believe he died and fell into
But
space.
his acting in the treasure room scene is just insane.
Loki is one of the
When
few
he shouts at
characters
him.
the MCU has never ruined.
100%.
Yeah.
Perfect from his very first to his very last showing.
Can we circle back to kind of the beginning / like the entirety of the movie, but really shows up in the beginning? The Frost Giant's little blue thing, is that another Tesseract thing?
No,
it's
the
not.
casket.
Okay, I just was confused because blue glowy thing that does powerful stuff.
No, it's
Yeah.
It is very fair.
Does that ever show up again or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ragnarok?
Is it not? If it has to be Dark World. I haven't seen.
Oh,
Dark
it
World
may
in
be
days.
Dark World.
I'm pretty sure it's Dark.
I don't remember it at all, so I'm saying Dark World.
No,
Stay
I
tuned
think
for that
Brendan.
episode, guys. Dark World is
Yeah.
going to be a great recap episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's just a point where Hela is walking through the vault and she calls it lame.
Probably.
Right?
Oh,
She like
yeah.
pushes over the gauntlet. She's like fake. Points to that lame, and then she sees the Tesseract. She's like, "Oh, it's not bad." But I think that's it. It's pretty much done after that.
I was gonna ask another question because I kind of rounded this under character. Is I kind of just thought of Asgard as a character, and I feel like that was underdeveloped. Like Asgard as a whole, like I cared about it because I cared about Thor's family and how they all related to each other, and Thor's friends. But like I feel like outside of that, you don't really know how they're living on Asgard. You don't see much of that outside of like the throne and stuff like that.
I think that's fine. I think it's almost like in Lord of the Rings when they show Rivendell. Like you don't really know much about Rivendell other than it's just Rivendell, and then they get right into the main like juice of the characters, and that's fine. I enjoyed that this movie spent less time on the action. It was there are really only like 3 action scenes. There's the beginning one, there's the destroyer, and then there's the Bifrost. And it spends a ton of time on dialogue. And I think it kind of crushes that stuff. And we get a little bit more of Asgard in the future movies too. A little bit. Not as much as I would like, but I think they do an okay job with it.
I think they explain more of it in the second one, and you see more of like the magic involvement in their society and stuff.
Right.
I was just thinking with this movie, it's interesting seeing how little was shown.
I think it's funny that they ride horses everywhere. That part kind of stuck out to me because in the second movie they got like ships and stuff and they're flying around,
Right.
and then they're like, "We're going to Jotunheim," and they're just all riding horses
What about-
at normal speed.
What about the cool horse, Odin's horse?
Oh,
When he
Odin's
like
horse.
shows up and it's like all rearing up. That was so sick. I don't know if that's like a special horse or something, but it's
And
a
I
cool
want to say
thing.
too, for the time, visually, Asgard looks beautiful. I mean, it does
Yeah.
not look like
Amazing.
that CGI at all.
And that fake out shot at the beginning when it shows it and you think that it's the mountain that they're living on and then it flips to the other half.
Uh-huh.
But it was a great fake out to see like the gold city after that.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on Thor? We are going to keep this a little bit shorter this week just because we are getting charged up for what we have ahead post Avengers because we're going to have to gear up a little bit. If you guys don't have any other thoughts,
talk about that.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
Consult too?
yeah, we'll get to the consultant. But any other thoughts on Thor or the ending of the movie?
I think the whole ending where Destroyer has touched down on Earth and he's there to kill Thor. I think it actually is a very, very perfect moment of Thor getting his worthiness back. And I think it all goes back to that very moment where Loki shows up to tell Thor that it's over. It pretty much is over, man. Like when he tells him Dad's dead and Mom said he can't ever come back because the Frost Giants will attack. He's very much instantly accepts it. Like he really does just like apologize and he's like, I'm sorry, Loki. Like I'm sorry that I did this. And then at the very end, he's willing to just face Destroyer as Thor, not the God of Thunder, to save these people because he even when he goes to Loki, he even doesn't know why Loki's doing this, but he still feels bad and just thinks for some reason he must have wronged his brother because this is his brother. Why would his brother just do this? And he walks up to the Destroyer and he says, like, for however I wronged you, Loki, I'm sorry. But like these people are innocent, you're here for me, kill me. And then Destroyer slaps him. He goes flying. And then the hammer, the whole thing, boom, Thor the God of Thunder. Kicks Destroyer's ass pretty easily.
I have a question for you guys. What are you guys? We haven't talked about it yet, and we normally have this question pop up every single episode. What do you guys think of his suit?
I love it.
Pretty cool.
It's
It is
amazing.
pretty
The
sick.
cape color is so good, especially when they're on the Frost Giant planet. They still get that bright red out of the cape, and it looks amazing. The high contrast.
I like how it has like it holds its form on the back. It doesn't like fall down his back.
Exactly.
Like it has a little bit of a lift on it.
Mhm.
It's very, very fantastic. I like it. It's not very realistic, but it's cool.
And we get the suit like close up. Like you really get to appreciate the suit when the suit's all falling apart when he's 1st getting banished, and you see all the chains unraveling and the circles getting ripped off. I thought that looked awesome.
You mentioned it at the very beginning. I do wish he would wear the helmet just a little more. because it's very, very rare we see it, even in the other Thor movies.
I think that entire first scene when they went to the Frost Giants, he could have worn it.
I agree. He should have had it on the whole
I
time.
think that would have been the perfect way, and then once he gets to Earth, he doesn't have it, and then that would have been complete.
Can we talk about the non-Easter egg when Natalie Portman is wearing the Missed Minutes T-shirt?
So
That's what
we
he
can
kept
talk
saying.
about it.
I don't think it's Miss Minutes.
I looked it up. They just said she was wearing a T-shirt that looked.
Yeah,
Miss
it's
Minutes,
just.
but it's not.
Nah, it's just a good. It's just like a
That'd be
Jimmy John's
cool.
pun.
But that's so far before they hadn't even planned for it.
Yeah,
I
not
know,
even
but
close.
it's still
Another cool Easter egg I noticed, I pointed this out to Wyatt, and this may be, just a coincidence, but when Thor's like walking to the destroyer, in the background, you can see on the water tower, it says home of the Vikings. I don't know if that was intentional, but I thought that was a really like cool.
I think it
That's nice.
had to be, because isn't
How it
that
had
entire
to
town fake? That entire town is a set, right?
Yeah, it was called like Porto.
Ponte
something.
Antiguito.
Yeah.
So they built that whole town, so
Antigua.
it had to be intentional.
Well, I thought that was just a cool addition. I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't need to do that, but it was cool to see.
Okay, I got a question for you guys and kind of a comment. After watching the big three's first movies, all their introduction movies, I gotta say, in my opinion, I think Marvel did a really good job at giving them a lot of room for growth as characters. Like, they each have parts of them that's very like dislikable. Like, Steve is kind of like the goody two shoes that believes everything. He's really gullible. Thor's kind of a cocky asshole, and then Tony also is kind of a cocky asshole too. And I think they did such a good job at giving them room to grow, and watching them now in their first movies versus how they finish in Endgame, you're like, whoa, these are like completely different people that just learned so many lessons from start to finish, and that's super cool. And I wish, watching stuff like Shang-Chi or Captain Marvel, I feel like they make them a little too good. There's not enough bad stuff going on with them. And I wish, I don't know, do you guys think that like the new characters could be more flawed?
I 100% agree. I do agree with you, what you're saying. I'm trying to think of other examples. Like an interesting one to me is Black Panther, because I think he probably has the best character out of all of the like main standalone movie characters that you have.
Morality wise,
Yeah, I would say that, and that's intentional as well, right? But like if he had flaws, right, and he overcame them,
I'm gonna bring that up right after.
I just don't know if that like would be the same case. I really like how Black Panther's done. Your example of Shang-Chi, it's an interesting argument, but I think some characters are better off,
I think the difference is. Sorry, you can go after Carson. The difference is with Black Panther. I actually feel like Black Panther sequels. Well, again, like the sequel got so messed up because Chadwick Boseman passed away.
RIP.
But I feel like the allure to like the future of Black Panther was more around Wakanda instead of the actual character of Black Panther. It was already really kind of explored morally. We knew what he was. There was never any debate there. It was more of the curiosity of Wakanda. What I think does have a lot of similarities to the original three is Doctor Strange, for example.
Yeah.
But I think they necessarily, where I think the original three are the most, like the reason the MCU was successful. Amazing first three movies. It sets up your characters, like Brendan said, leaves the door wide open for plenty of more like growing and learning. And then gives you an easy sequel after Avengers. Everyone wanted to see what happens to Iron Man, what happens to Thor, what happens to Captain America. And a Doctor Strange, the same kind of thing. Doctor Strange is by no means a good person. At the end of Infinity War, it still very much has morals. He has moral questions. In No Way Home is still an asshole. Like, he just is. And I think where they lose the ball is his sequel really doesn't build on his character at all in terms of growing and learning, which I know we're really not supposed to jump around, but I too much got the vibe was after Endgame, he was supposed to be kind of their catalyst next big guy. Like, he is now the leader of the MCU as a whole entity, and I think they really did drop the ball by not really expanding on his character to the way they used to.
Well, I know Carson has a thought, but maybe Black Panther is a bad example because that's kind of how he's designed.
He does have a flaw though. He's naive.
That is-
He's
yeah.
naive in thinking that the world's perfect because Wakanda's perfect.
I
And like
think
Killmonger shows him that that's not true. And he learns at the end, and that's when his growth is him going in the ancestral plane at the end, and he's like yelling at all of his ancestors, like, why'd you turn your back on the rest of the world? And like at the beginning of the movie, he would have been on board with what they were saying of like, no, we have to be closed doors. And at the end, he learns like, no, that's not what we have to be. And Killmonger teaches him that. So he does have a growth. He does have an arc. I think they do well with him.
The three main guys, Thor, Iron Man, and then Captain America. Like, it would be so tough to do another Shang-Chi movie. I just don't think like it would be good enough. Like, there's nothing to grow on.
because of his point of no flaws.
Yeah. And I just think since it was so early, like they did these characters so well, and they were able to build, and the MCU doesn't do that anymore.
I agree. They don't.
They don't expand to like want to make more movies with these.
You have too much going on.
Yeah.
When I think nowadays we're at a point where we're gonna rely on team up movies to build characters, and that's just not a recipe for success.
I mean, they're going back to RDJ to like.
Oh, I actually think that's not terrible.
We'll see.
Shoot in a little more. They're kind of far.
I had two more things, just really quick about Thor before we move on. I was gonna say I think the comparison between Captain Marvel and this is interesting because you have Shield's involvement and stuff. But I think that I like the Frost Giants more in this, and I thought they were explained quickly in the beginning, and it made sense. And I thought comparing that to how they explained the Kree in the beginning of Captain Marvel, where you're confused, you don't understand what's going on with all of it. I thought this movie, even though it had an opening narration, which obviously helps you explain stuff way easier, I thought I was way less confused by the Frost Giants, and they served their purpose, and it wasn't too confusing.
I think they purposely did that though in Captain Marvel so that they have the opportunity to like give the solution. That's why it was so confusing.
I agree that I think a part of Captain Marvel relies on you kind of need to be, because the whole point is that they're all it's not a big misunderstanding, but there's a lot more to like the Kree than just knowing they're these bad guys. I do think that a part of the movie you need to be confused with them, but I also think that's kind of poor writing.
And it does the character or the villain switch, where it's the Frost Giants and then it's Loki.
Yeah,
And it does the same thing in that movie where it switches who the villain is towards the end. So I just thought that was an interesting comparison.
I would argue in Thor, and this is something I wanted to bring up, kind of does a villain switch multiple times. You've got the Frost Giants, and then, you see Peaks of the Destroyer. You don't think really anything of it, that he's going to end up being, the big final fight. And then you realize that's not even the big final fight. The big final fight is between Thor and Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I would throw in that Odin's also Loki kind
Odin
of villain,
being
too.
villain
That
for
guy,
Loki.
I don't know. He seems to kind of put like Thor and Loki like kind of head to head like their entire lives. It's kind of what I got. Like, because he never, like, he threw out the idea of both of them could be king one day, but Thor was always the firstborn, so obviously he was going to become king. So it's like, why put them head to head like their entire lives?
No, that's what the Browns are doing with Shador, and it's a good idea. You
Yeah.
gotta make them, you gotta make them earn it.
Sanders is the Loki of the NFL.
And then
also, that is the relationship between Odin is very much explored in Dark World and Ragnarok. Kind of like the fact that what you're kind of getting at is really that Loki and Thor kind of explore that themselves, kind of come to this conclusion about Odin throughout the movies.
Yeah.
They kind of go head to head about their father,
And Frigga has a good role in it too. I think her specifically with Loki. They have good dialogue in Thor 2. It's one of the only good things in Thor 2.
Thor 2, I do really like. I think she gets more attention than in
because
this movie.
she didn't have all that much dialogue in this movie.
No.
she barely shows up.
But
The
she becomes
only-
much more important later on. Even in Endgame, I liked her a lot.
It's
I
almost
think it's
like they
great
only
to see
show
her
her
get
up
more
to
dialogue.
establish as their mother. What were you gonna ask? What was your question?
Oh, how does Loki get his powers if he's just a frost giant? Like, how is
She
he?
teaches him because she's a sorceress.
Oh,
Yes,
She's a
that's
witch,
correct.
isn't she?
She's a witch.
Yes, so
Yeah.
he's kind of mom's favorite, and I think Thor is kind of dad's favorite.
And I think
That's kind of
that's why that dialogue, which we'll talk more about when Thor: The Dark World, but that is why I think that dialogue works so well, and it seems so natural because, like, it is quite clear that Frigga's favorite is Loki, or she at least holds a special place
That
in his heart, in her heart.
and that 20 minutes of Dark World, which I won't say anything about for Austin, but I think we all know what I'm talking about. It's a huge moment for both those for all of those characters. Is one of the only good parts of that movie is that little growth experience within that for both of them.
And you see it in this movie because she doesn't get like super mad at Loki when he goes into Odin's sleep. Like she just understands that there was an outburst.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
One little closing comment I have about Thor is I hadn't watched Thor and I hadn't watched Hulk in a very, very long enough time that I didn't remember both very well at all. The difference in quality between these two movies is insane. As two movies that I look back on as lower quality MCU movies, Hulk really is, not to just bag on Hulk for back episodes, Hulk is really so bad compared to Thor, which is actually, on a rewatch, pleasantly surprised at how good this movie was.
The CGI was awful, though. I'm going to throw that one out there. Asgard looked terrible. No. Thor. Asgard looked awful. I didn't look very bad. Like, the castle looked very bad.
That's what I said. I gave Hulk a 3, and I gave Thor an 11.5. So I think this was 8 better than Hulk.
This was definitely surprisingly good.
There is one other thing.
11.
Is that final talk between Odin and Thor? They do bring up something that we get to in the future, and when they talked about it, I was like kind of disappointed because I don't like how they handled it later on. But I was surprised that it was set up so early.
Which part was it?
Like,
I'll include a spoiler. Hold on, I'm going to include a spoiler warning on the screen as well as audio wise. If you're listening, big spoiler warning. I have no idea what Brody's going to talk
It also
about.
came out.
So maybe just skip ahead 1 minute.
It also
Brody, make it quick.
It came out 2011. Guys.
I don't know if this matters to because Austin hasn't seen. Have you seen the other Thor movies?
No, this is the first time seeing this one.
Should I just say it? Does it matter?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So at the end, he's talking about being a leader, and he says, "I'll never be as good as a father as you," right? And like, I'm interested to see where they go with that. If they return to that stuff. But it was just crazy at the end of it. I was like, oh my gosh, they set this up 3 movies before. Like, I don't know if that was intentional or they like brought that in, but it really surprised me at the end.
They put a lot of weight on the line. I agree. Like he says it and like looks at the camera and winks pretty much. Like they do put a lot of weight on. I'll never be as good of a leader or a father. So like I get what you're saying.
But like it just caught me off guard. I didn't remember it at all, and I was like, oh, you don't get that for like a while. You know what I mean?
Bro, Thor's a dad?
We don't know.
All right, that will be it for a spoiler warning. If you're still listening, I'm sorry you had to listen to Austin's outrageous statement.
I didn't know how to talk about it.
I want to say something.
Oh, okay. Pappy talk. Pappy time.
I think it's
Hands clasped.
It's a little preposterous that they brought in Loki. Like, what's the mom's name?
Frigga.
Frigga. If Frigga used her freaking powers to train Thor, dude, he'd be the ultimate god. If she could teach a Bifrost giant, like I know
That's not Bifrost, it's just a frost giant.
Oh, sorry, I know that. Anyways, if she could teach just some frost giant, I know he's the son of the leader. Dude, she could have taught Thor these powers, right? And he would have been like just insanely unstoppable. No?
Yeah.
Well, he already had his stuff.
Maybe no. I disagree. You have to have it.
The biggest fan of.
You got to have it.
I know, but I know you.
Like
you
she
have
wasn't
to
even
have
happy
it
when
for
he
his
was
character.
like, the king.
No, but you got to be magic. Some people are magic, some aren't.
I think it's a personality thing. Like it's the equivalent on Asgard is like Thor was the jock and Loki was the theater kid. And I bet Thor was like, oh, look at you, like in your books practicing spells, loser, you know, and like he's out there
with the hammer.
Yeah,
Right?
like he's the jock.
Yeah.
Why is Loki not giant? Is he half human or not half human?
It said they found him and he was tiny for a giant baby.
I bet Frigga
all they
did
said.
something because she manipulated the skin color. I bet she did something to stunt
There's
his
probably
growth.
some behind the scenes.
Did she manipulate it? Because he changes right when Odin's holding him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He changed his skin. Yeah, that's true. How does he look in What If? Is he same size?
He's
When he's
big.
with
He's
What
tall.
If?
He's big.
Okay, then he should have been big.
Maybe
Gotcha.
it's just like the environment of growing up on Asgard. He didn't grow to full giant strength. He didn't get enough frost giant darkness or like
True.
Bifrost.
But he was already a runt when they
No,
found
it's
him.
not
Like,
Bifrost.
That's a joke.
Oh.
I would have to agree with Wyatt because in What If, he
Yeah.
fully blue the whole time. You don't see any change in his skin and complexion.
It is that. Huh? Talking about the end credit scene.
So yeah, I think that's probably why, and it may maybe also be a artistic decision in What If. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good way to think about it. Yeah, we'll try to have a couple more thoughts on the ending, and then
So let's
move
get the end credit scene.
Well, back a little bit. Do we like the hammer like noises throughout the movie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, like
Amazing.
when he like every time he moves the hammer and there's just that is the only way I can describe it is the sound of heaviness is so cool. Every time he moves it, it just sounds so heavy. I love it.
Okay, but
And they use the hammer really good. Like they come up with really creative. Like in the beginning when he's spinning it and he's hitting all the rocks up and he's just spinning like shooting rocks at people. That
When
was a
he-
really creative way to use it.
Shoots at that giant snow rain core and just shoots through the back of him like a sniper's bullet. Yeah, it's
so
pretty cool.
And then he lands straight back down. It's so good.
That's the beast I got confused from Ragnarok with.
Oh, really?
Gotcha.
Opening.
Yeah.
he does lay the hammer on
Loki, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I got confused.
To crush his chest and fall both through.
All right, what are your thoughts on the end credit scene? And also, I would like to preface right now too, as we try to keep your thoughts of the end credit scene fairly spoiler free, because how I want to introduce the conversation of us looking into the Avengers, I'm gonna phrase it in a way that will keep spoilers up. But as we talk about the end credit scene, try to keep spoilers out of it.
I skipped the end credit scene. I didn't know, bro, because I watched one and then almost got a spoiler for the entire thing. So then I'm just done.
Because you watched the one movie that came out 15 years after the other one. Live reaction end credit scene. What do you? I'm blanking on it, to be honest.
I thought the end credit scene was like simple and nice.
Oh, you're right.
It builds into the next movie pretty well.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess two movies.
Yeah.
2 movies from the
You just
future.
We're
get the
still in
little
that
the
era
Mina
where-
shot.
Every end credit scene is just going to set up your next movie.
100%. Thank you.
But it's good
All right.
because it's just setting up like the next, not the sequel to this movie. Or I feel like we get
Right.
that sometimes later on, and then the sequel is like trapped into doing a storyline from the first one.
Yeah.
Or I feel like
And you
with
know
a lot
what?
of these earlier ones, it's contained, and then you just move on to another contained, and it's good.
And I think they learned their lesson because I would argue Thunderbolts did a really good job with this, and they kind of copied this. They did well with just building into the next.
Moment, it's tops around for Thunderbolts. For those of you, check out the Thunderbolts recap coming out soon.
Rest in peace, Taskmaster.
All right.
Stop.
Spoiler.
Okay, so now
He knows.
now we've wrapped up our conversation on Thor. Talk a little bit about the consultant. We're gonna talk about the consultant. What were your guys' thoughts?
Oh, can we do a?
I liked it.
It was awesome. It was really good.
I had a feeling they're bringing in Tony Stark.
I think it's very funny because you're watching it and then you're kind of like you're thinking Tony Stark, but you're not really sure where he's gonna pop up, and then it literally is just the end credit scene from Hulk. I think it's when you really think of it, it's very very lazy what they did. They just filmed two guys talking in a booth and then clipped in their previously filmed scene for a different movie. But it's actually really funny and it works really well. That like, who cares how lazy it is? I think it's very well done. I think it's one of the better
funny
one
how they were
shots.
talking too.
100%.
Lighthearted fun. One of the top one shots.
And
So Blonde's-
it made the Incredible Hulk one end credit scene make sense because
Mhm.
without
Yeah.
it, it's like what? Like why did he go to him? Like he doesn't know where Banner is. Like what? That doesn't make sense. And then this kind of
Yeah.
retconned it. It was good.
We were this close to the Abomination being an Avenger.
That's
Yeah,
what this
right?
was about. I was like kind of confused. Blonsky was gonna be the Hulk.
No, he's good. Well,
No.
he
Well,
was
like-
the Abomination in the Avengers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I did love the cut to the movie shots. It's like, oh, here's the good part from Hulk. Just real quick.
Yeah.
Here's the good action shot from Hulk. Just to make you like, it actually, like you could literally just skip the Hulk movie, watch this, and it'll explain what happened with Hulk, and you'd be good. Like,
Yeah.
that's what's great about this scene, is you can just watch this.
Iron Man
And
is the
it
best
works.
character.
Spark notes.
Like, yes.
Right.
All right, we'll do a thumbs up or a thumbs down on 3 for the consultant. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Kevin drinks his shirt off.
All right, I think
Everyone
everybody thumbs up. I thought it was super clever. Yeah, I think as we kind of saw this. Can you please put your shirt on? As we saw, this conversation of Thor and the one-shots is really hard to have without talking too much about the Avengers, especially in retrospect. If we had this conversation, obviously, when Thor came out, it'd be much different. But looking to the Avengers, the way I'm going to phrase this, because I feel like spoilers are going to happen, and I'm trying our best for our viewers and listeners out there so that if they are experiencing it for this first time, like my brother, that there's not too many spoilers. So, Austin, we're going to start with you. I want everybody to list one character that they've seen in the last couple movies that we've seen, what they're excited for, or what character they're excited for, and why they're excited about it. But you have to use reasoning for something that you've already seen in the movies, not looking ahead.
Okay.
All right, I think Agent Coulson. I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's obviously it's not canon, but he's a great character. I want to see him continue and maybe move up the ranks a little bit more, and a little funny like gaffes that he has is great. So I'm looking forward to seeing him more.
I think it's a pretty exciting thing to be looking forward to.
Okay.
Yeah, I
okay.
think that is a good character.
Yeah, I would be excited to see a lot of Phil Coulson soon. In a lot of MCU movies.
I think for me, it's got to be Tony Stark. I mean, the spotlight is on him throughout the MCU at this point, and he takes full front stage, I anticipate, in the Avengers. I haven't really watched the Avengers in several years, probably since I did my first full rewatch. But I'm just super excited because you have that piece, and Hulk. He's the only character we've had at this point that has 2 movies leading up to the Avengers.
Iron Man?
Iron Man and Iron Man 2. He's had 2 movies up to this point.
Yeah, I think you said Hulk.
I said.
No, he's not excited to see Hulk.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's who I'm excited for.
I'm excited for Black Widow to see her
You haven't seen her. Oh, wait, she's Iron Man.
Yeah, we have.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
because personally, I know we're not supposed to look in the future, but I really love Black Widow, and to see her at the movie, her solo movie that came out.
Remember, keep your thoughts for
Supposed to
everything.
only what you've seen as of
I'm
now.
just saying. I really love her character, and to see her start out as this decoy little decoy that Nick Fury uses to get to know Tony Stark, and just to know that she's gonna take this huge role. I'm pretty excited to see that character development.
I'm excited for Captain America. He's been in ice for 100 years. And it's going to be very interesting because I've watched Avengers once and I really don't remember it all.
Mhm.
I'm excited to see his character in that movie.
When I was a kid, I remember after watching this movie, I was so excited to see Hawkeye in the Avengers. I just thought the way they introduced him was so cool.
Mhm.
Especially when you're 9 years old.
But
Do you think it's one of the best character
Introductions?
yeah.
I think so too, because it clicks. It's one of those introductions where if you're someone who knew at the time knew who Hawkeye was,
yeah,
it was so cool. You're like, it's just a guy, and all of a sudden he grabs the bow and arrow, and the second he even pans to a bow and arrow, you instantly know who it is. There's no question about it. That's Hawkeye. And then he's up there, and he's just, I think it's so cool the way Hawkeye shows up in this movie. I think makes it very excited to see him in the Avengers.
for the casual viewer, they don't really know shit about Hawkeye.
They have no idea.
I have no idea.
They don't know his.
And I
it's a
love
good
that they don't
film.
come back to it. They don't throw him at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like that it's just contained because it's makes sense that he's here. And
I
that's
have
all
a
you need.
question. Who do you think came first on the Shield, Hawkeye or Black Widow?
We know who it is. It's Hawkeye. Hawkeye recruited Black Widow on a mission.
I didn't know that.
I would
Wow.
say, wait, so Braun, is the prompt as if we hadn't watched the future movies?
Yes.
I would say I'd probably be most curious to see if I had never seen any of the movies and then remove Captain Marvel because that's 2019. I would say Nick Fury's probably the biggest question mark because he's the guy that seems to be everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. Like nobody knows where he comes from. Nobody knows why he has the authority to show up, but he's in every single one of the big three's movies to get to, or he sends Coulson, so he's indirectly in Thor by being Coulson's boss. He shows up at the end of Cap, and I think one of the most iconic scenes when he runs out and is in Times Square. And then we get to meet him in, he's the first end credit scene. And I think if I were a viewer and I just watched these movies, I'd be like, who is this guy? And like, why is he just like everywhere?
And I think the amount of screen time he gets in the Avengers is perfect. Like, I think they do a great job at tease, main character.
Yeah.
Like, very, very large role.
100%.
I think for me, I would have to say Thor at this point. I think just because, like, usually I'm paying attention to Captain America because, like, usually that's my guy. So I think going through a rewatch and watching a different character, I think it's really interesting to just, like, turn your focus. Like, don't just go for the main person that you like and just, like, turn your focus and, like, see how that character develops that you haven't seen. But, yeah.
All right, well, I think that is going to wrap up our conversation today. Thank you again for diving back into the timeline with us. New recap episodes are coming out every week leading up to Avengers Doomsday.
What's next?
We are getting closer and closer. We've got the Avengers up next,
Ooh.
and there's also one shot as well, item 47. Make sure you watch that after the Avengers.
Come on, guys, hulking out.
Okay.
Wherever you are in the multiverse, thanks for making the Sacred Rewatch part of your journey. See you guys next week.